Hey! I know that's a special just for Shy and Moonstone for our nice discussion this week. Okay, enough of that. Oh, I forgot to do that. I've been busy. It's been a very busy day. I beg your pardon. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to ADRAMADA. Another Dave Roach Ask Me Anything Digital Alchemy. It just doesn't roll off the tongue trippingly, does it? I need something new. Hey, well, we get together once a week or so, every Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, and talk tech. We cover all kinds of technology, from IT to music to movies to cars to space and everything in between. And that's why we're here today. And ostensibly, I had a plan on what we were going to do today, and that plan is totally wiped out. It's a marvelous plan. We're going to do it, and I'm going to get on it next week. There were challenges that you won't run into, but because of my configuration here, there are some things that I need to do to make it work. So apologies, but we are not going to do Mastodon on a Raspberry Pi this week. The challenges are reason number one, and reason number two is I'm actually right in the middle of a gig. It was a deliver and set up, and they knew that I couldn't stay, so I got to get back and do the show, but I've got to strike the set before the facility closes. And that means we're going to be a very short show, not very short. I'm going to run just over half an hour today. And I do have two little projects, pro tips for Linux. Just some cool little demos you might get a kick out of. And one of them is so good, as I was playing with it and setting it up, I decided that I'm going to do a show on it. Sorry, I got wires in the way here. Man, touch a wire during a show, it's the most dangerous thing you can do, right? So, who has arrived? We had so much to talk about yesterday. Oh my gosh. If you are watching this on archive, you didn't miss anything amazing by not being here live watching the show. Although you are missing by not being here live watching and participating with the show. But if you have not yet joined our Discord server, I'll put the link up in just a couple of seconds. Join it, because we did something so cool yesterday. Oh my gosh. So I will talk about that. Let's see what's cooking here. Television turns up 5 hours early. Short is better than none. And Shia turned up an hour before showtime. In. Patricia Grace is here. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Jason's here. Totally mended. Man, what a great time. Everybody who's online with me right now was participants or much more involved than than you can imagine. Catch this. All right, so let's see what's going on here. I am Dave Rush. I am your tech from Texas, and this is ADRAMADA, and we love research. And I have a question. So, I do my little greeting thing usually about 5 minutes before showtime. I was late on here. This is one of my favorite quotes from Jurassic Park and from Jeff Goldblum, who in Jurassic Park is my favorite actor. So when you're quoting an actor, when you're quoting a line from a film or television show or play or whatever, who gets the attribution for the quote? Is it the character that spoke it? Is it a writer who you may or may not know, anonymously, some room full of writers doing a television series? Or in the case of today, Life Finds a Way, we know that Michael Crichton wrote that in his book. So, who gets the credit, the attribution? So I didn't know if I was going to put it down as Dr. Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum, or Michael Crichton. If you are watching this on archive, today is June 20th, 2024. Yesterday was Juneteenth. If you don't know its actual history, it was Galveston Island. Galveston is an island. Was the last place in America to get the word about emancipation on June 19th. 1864, 1865. It had to be 65 because Lincoln got shot in 65. Anyway, so it's kind of a special day in Galveston, particularly Texas, especially. And in the 80s, Texas declared Juneteenth as a state holiday. And of course, 2 years ago, the feds pandering, quite frankly, and I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody. But you know what? We've got to get some more votes from some demographics that we're not doing well with. And so let's make Juneteenth, June 19th, a national federal holiday. So yesterday was a national federal holiday, which means certain people in the government get off. We don't get any mail, but plenty of other people have to work, and the rest of the country has to work. So. Hence my assessment that it is a pander. Today's date in history, today being June 20th, in 1819, the SS Savannah reached Cork in Ireland after a 29-day and 11-hour voyage from Savannah, Georgia, to become the first steamship to cross the Atlantic or any other ocean for that matter. 1819, 105 years ago. 1840. This one's near and dear to my heart. I'm an amateur radio operator since I'm 13 years old. Samuel F.B. Morse patents his telegraph. 1867, U.S. President Andrew Johnson announces the Alaska Purchase. Welcome, Alaskans, if we have anybody if they're watching. And in 1966, some years after the most famous attempt, British pilot Sheila Scott completes the first round-the-world solo flight by a woman. Now, Amelia Earhart didn't try it solo, but poor Miss Scott does not get much credit in history, so thought it was nice to share. She left Heathrow Airport on a 34-day journey in a Piper Comanche, which is a single-engine piston. I have flown many Piper Comanches in my day. And it must have been pretty new. Comanches were 61, 62, 60, through the 60s. And landed back at Heathrow. So very good. Hey, Eve Upwork. If you are not already a member, you missed it yesterday, but it's not your last chance. Here is the link to the ADRAMADA Discord server. It's there to talk tech. It's also there to talk humor and memes and all kinds of tech. We got astrophotography up there. We got physics. We got lots of IT topics, Linux and whatever, and music and movies. And it's just kind of a broad spectrum Discord server. Do join us. It's also a great way to communicate directly with me, because I'm always on, and you can always DM me. And even if I'm not on, you can DM me, and I'll get right back to you. If you would rather contact me in a more dedicated and private fashion, I just put in the chat feed a couple of email accounts that will get to me every day of the week. I'm also on X. There's my X account. And I'm on Mastodon. Which is really going to be an interesting thing. When I finish my Mastodon install here, I will self-host and make it permanent. What I have learned is that you can move your Mastodon account off of whatever server that it's on to another server. Mastodon servers are distributed. But they're all shared, right? If you send me a Mastodon on here and I'm on there, I'll get it there and vice versa. But when you do that, your followers, if you have any followers, they will eventually catch up. They tend to, apparently, in all of the accounts that I've read, they kind of clump up, and in 1 hour, here comes a clump of them. In a couple hours, here comes another clump. And after a day or so, all of your clumps. But the accounts that you follow when you move your Mastodon account from one server to another, you lose them. You got to refollow them. So if you have a lot of things that you follow on social media, then you got a little bit of work cut out for you after you move your account. Such is life. Okay, so what is it that I am alluding to that you missed, and you don't want to miss this? Yesterday in history, we held the first ever ADRAMADA movie watch party on our Discord server under the amazing technical prowess and control of Patricia Grace, of Tullowit, of P4 Easy, of Jason, and just nothing from me for all intents and purposes. I just made a Discord server a year or two ago. Patricia hosted the movie on one of the voice channels there. It was a technical tour de force. It was wonderful. We had a great time. We had a chat window open for those of us who were having a little snarky time, and talking about some of the characteristics of the movie. The movie, you ask, the newest Godzilla movie, Godzilla -1. I've mentioned it before. This is now the second time I've seen it. It just keeps getting better. This is not your Hollywood hunt and fight the monster. That's like it's almost a side plot, or it's the glue that holds the rest of the movie together. It is a film. Okay, it's not a movie. It's good. It may be great. So if you missed that, this was our first. It will not be our last. We need to get together as a group. Everybody who was involved in conducting it. And if you weren't involved in conducting it, come on over to the server and add your ideas. Add your list of movies that you'd like to see, times, days, preferences, all kinds of things. Because this is going to be a regular feature. How frequently do you want this? Should this be a once a week thing? That kind of asks a lot of the people who really did the behind the scenes work and made it happen. But if they're willing and interested, cool. Maybe once a month is the better way to go. Second Tuesday of every month or something. You get the idea. It's not going to be annual, I'll tell you that, and I would not like to see it any less frequently. This is a vote. I'm not making any pronouncements, but at least as frequently as once a month, because that was just good. Oh my gosh, we had a great time with that. All right, who's here? What are you saying? Like Mystery Science Theater 3000 meets Svengoolie. Except it was a good. I mean, I'm a guy and I'm a geek. I love MST3K, but sometimes because I am hooked on 60s grade B horror and sci-fi flicks, I want to watch the movie. And they yap more than I do. And they yap over the dialogue. I want to see it. I want to hear it. And as the show went on, they did more and more skits and things that just, I don't think it fit. I want skits. I'll watch Robot Chicken. Okay. Jason's gonna make the film poll. We've got a channel called Music and Movies, and Jason Helms is going to make a poll up there for what film should be next. Just sure I plan to stream unplanned every now and again. If I'm watching something, that's awesome. Make an announcement. Use the @everyone tag in case we're around and want to background it. It is funny. Completely agree. All right, back to this nonsense. Oh, okay, this has changed. I almost had to change the date on the show next week. I was going to push it up to Wednesday instead of Thursday because I had a gig that was going to take all day and much of the night. And then 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, I got the text message that the gig got bagged. So, okay. Next week's show, regular day, regular time, and we will do Mastodon on a Pi. So let's get into tech news, which means I need slides. Setting up slides. Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Hey, I gotta show you this. There is a hosting site out there, there's more than one, that hosts Raspberry Pis. And I found this great tutorial where you can rent a Raspberry Pi. It's already in the cloud. It's already taking care of some of the creative things that I've got to pull off here. And I don't have a firm grasp on the capacity of a good Raspberry Pi being a Mastodon server. There's 3 things that you have to concern yourself with. How many users you are going to host membership on, how many followers they have, and the amount of storage space for the multimedia. Now, if you host your own Mastodon server, you get to set up all those criteria. You can define the minimum or maximum number of users. I don't know if you can set a number of followers. That would be silly, but I suppose it's possible. And most importantly, you can set up how much storage you want, or you can control the amount of storage that users and different user classes can have. I was looking at one RPi-based Mastodon server today that has 12 terabytes of storage. Mastodon is amazing. It's a social media site, but there are organizations that have looked at it and said, hey, look, this is a collaborative site. And they are hosting on Pis and on more capable machines. Their corporate collaborative file sharing and meetings and things like that. So it's a powerful beast. What happens when you run out of capacity on a system? You add another one. You can bridge them, if you will. You can join them and take advantage of their additional capability. And that, to my mind, is just friggin' cool. Okay, news. So the Boeing Starliner was supposed to be attached to ISS for a week. And we mentioned on last week's show that it was for a week. But there was a leak. And then another leak. And then another leak. And then another leak. And then another leak. 5 helium leaks on Starliner. And for all the evaluation they're doing, the potential fixing and things like that, it has been delayed several times. The most current delay now has it leaving the ISS in 6 days, a little more than 2 weeks. The crew's up there eating. There's only a 2-person crew, but they're eating all the other staff's food and using their resources. And they have not provided an explanation for the delays other than we're assessing the impact of these leaks on the ISS itself and on the flight home. Let's see, Starliner went up with 2 crew members, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. Same crew will return. So they didn't send up a crew and then they're going to swap out some people and send it back. This is, and it's interesting because it's not Starliner staff astronauts, it's NASA astronauts. So we'll see how she goes. Let's stick with the theme of space. A little more than 6 months ago, Voyager 1, out past Pluto, heading into the Kuiper Belt, had a problem, and it started spewing gibberish. And it did that for almost 6 months while computer scientists and engineers and techs and electricians, electrical engineers and all that worked on the problem, and they stopped the gibberish, and they got it to be able to send back spacecraft telemetry. Cool. But that's not the goal. It's got 4 major instruments on board, and that's what Earth scientists want the data from. 2 days ago, June 15th, 5 days ago, NASA made a post. We're back, baby! All 4 instruments are functioning and transmitting regular telemetry. It is fully functional like the day it was new. So, woohoo! Welcome back, Voyager. Good to hear from you again. In the theoretical sciences, namely mathematics. I'm calling this article, "It all depends on what the definition of is. No politics intended." You will note the little circle that I have in this graphic. It is over the equal sign. We all know what equals means. Or so you thought. In mathematics, well, let's go back here. The equal sign was invented in the year 1557 by a Welsh mathematician named Robert Record, with an E at the end. Recorde. That was more Italian than Welsh, sorry. Anyways, he came up with the idea of the equal sign, and it took a long time for it to be adopted. Nonetheless, it was adopted. And it has native, inherent meaning. We all understand internally what equals means. And it's hard to give it a definition without using the word in the definition. Nonetheless, in the 1900s, a new mathematical theory was postulated called, you ought to learn this in 5th grade, 6th grade, certainly 7th grade, set theory. And set theory turned the equal sign on its head by making sets that, in a classical mathematical sense, are not equal. However, under the rules of set theory, they are. A set A, B, C in set theory is equal to the set 1, 2, 3 because of their structural similarities. And that similarity has a specific term. It's called canonical isomorphism. God, I've gone back to school. A couple of my math profs would be so proud. Though I must admit, I had to refresh on some of this. Okay, big deal, you say. I do. Because while there is crossover, humans innately understand how to deal with these things. We get rid of the sets and we leave classical math, or vice versa, turn it all into sets. But there's a problem. And the problem is computers and or the programs that run them. Because there's 2 different equalses out there. And they mean different things, and they're used different ways. And there is a batch of computers whose job out there is to perform mathematical proofs. Well, a proof is as dependent on the equal sign as we are dependent on air. And more importantly, it's not just the sign. It's what does equals mean. So this is starting to matter. And proof computers are failing to prove or disprove because there isn't a consistent cross mathematical planes definition of equals. So there is a war among mathematicians and programmers. Some mathematicians think they should just redefine the mathematical concept. to formally equate canonical isomorphism with equality. Others think that the incongruence between mathematicians and machines should prompt math minds to rethink what exactly they mean by certain mathematical foundational concepts such as equality so that computers can understand them. This has been a big deal for about 6 years. It's older than that, but it started to bubble to the surface in major scientific circles and programming circles about 6 years ago, and now because of some noteworthy failures of computers to do what they could, should, would be able to do, it has bubbled its way up into public view. Just thought it was interesting. University of Texas at Dallas. Researchers claim to have perfected an imaging chip that can scan through walls, boxes, opaque panels, semi-opaque materials, mist, fog, smoke. What's the biggie that I had in there? Yeah, those were the ones. It's small enough to be included in cell phones, smartphones. And the chip can scan in or through, I said all that stuff. It uses millimeter waves, which is the same technique that they use in what we call X-ray machines. They're scanners at the airport and things like that. There are also metal detectors and things like that, but millimeter wave is what they're doing with that. And they've got this down to microchip size, and right now it can see package contents, can see wires in walls and similar targets. Their initial goal for this chip is low-vis situations, smoke-filled rooms for firefighters, foggy conditions, and biomed. So this one they think is fairly close to production. You may see this in the next handful of years in your cell phone, and that will cause a hullabaloo. Among the hoi polloi, among the elites in Raspberry Pi world, there are reports coming out about a kit that Raspberry Pi released 6 weeks ago, something like that, that just isn't getting a massive amount of press. You're looking at the kit. It is an M2 hat add-on board and an Edge artificial intelligence processing unit. And they're calling this the AI kit. Retail is $70. How much you pay for it on the street? $70. I haven't got one yet. It's a Halo AI acceleration module specifically designed to work with the Raspberry Pi 5. It's cost effective. It's power efficient. It's an interesting way if you're into developing AI or using what's out there already. This speeds things up. It's an AI accelerator. I just don't have a solid handle on AI, so I'll throw out a couple numbers that really don't mean anything to me. The AI module is a 13 tera operations per second neural network inference accelerator built around the Hilo 8L chip. Blah, blah, blah. It's a 2242 form factor. M.2 comes pre-installed in the M2 hat, which it connects to through, oh, that's interesting, an M-key edge connector. I'm looking at the picture, I can see that's an M-key. See, there's two slots on that lower M2 device. Basically, that's a SATA interface. An M-key is what SATA SSDs use. All right, so I'll get my hands on one and finally do. I had an AI project all set. Had a tutorial, ran through it. It failed miserably. I wrote the author and said, hey, here's the situation I got. And he wrote back the most condescending piece of garbage. You have to follow the instructions exactly. So I took it with a grain of salt and I made a absolutely fresh, clean installation and followed it word by word, step by step, and got the exact same failure. And I wrote him back and said, did it a second time, same situation. I suspect, oh great teacher, Ona guy that you are, if anybody gets that, 1,000,000 points to you. I think that you probably had some dependencies already installed in your system that aren't in mine, and you didn't know they were necessarily dependencies, and you therefore didn't document them, and I have no idea what the dependencies are. And he ignored me. So he's on my list. I will get that project though, because we do got to play with AI, and then this will ramp up our world. All right, that is all the news that's fit to print. So let's see what you guys are talking about, and then we're going to do project. 2 of them. They're quick and simple, and then we're going to call it a day. And then page here. Oh, man. Okay, there's projects. Okay, there we go. Reading that Benjamin Unplanned, but it's funny. I'm thinking of JavaScript at this point. Okay. It knows how to use equals. Oh, good stuff, Peter. Well, all right. So since we're not going to do Mastodon on a Pi, and I did a Mastodon show a while back, and I promised toward the end of that we would actually do Mastodon on a Pi. We are now at least coming this close to delivering on that. But since I can't do it today because of the myriad things that are underfoot, I said to myself, let's do something. So let me fire up a terminal here. Putty. Ubuntu. No, I want to do this on the NUC. NUC. Something weird about my daily driver Linux system. When I go to SSH into it, excuse me, it takes a long time to establish that initial connection. I don't know what's going on there. I haven't had a chance to dig into it. There we go. Okay, password. Hey, we're in. Now we can share. Putty. That works. Dave. That works. All right, so I want to talk about, let's call these pro tips for Linux. There are 2 kinds of Linux boxes out there. There are Linux servers that have no graphical interface. You live and die on the command line. You can add a graphical interface if you want. I have one. But by and large, we live in the command line on that. And then there are workstations that are for everybody who are used to a graphical environment coming from Windows or Mac or something like that. And those are great things. They transition people to Linux and some of the benefits of Linux, and there are some disadvantages, as we know. But if you live and die, as I do for the most part, in a command line world, then you're making text files all the time. There, let me see. Here is someone that I wanted. There it is. Glob files.ssh. So I use my editor of choice, VI. No, nobody does. Emacs, no, nobody does. Vim or Nano. I don't want to do that one, it's clear. And Vim and Nano doesn't have spell checkers. So if you put typos in there, well, there's two kinds of typos. You can typo words when you're putting in text content, and the same goes for any textual file. Or you can make syntax errors in code. And a lot of tools will detect those and help you out, even Nano. But you just cannot spell check on the fly unless you have a plugin or something like that. That's okay, because we can do it after the fact. Now, there used to be a program back in the day in Linux called Spell. And as I say, spell's not found, but if for some Neolithic reason, Neanderthal reason perhaps, that you just had to have spell because you cut your teeth on it back in 1913, knock yourself out. Sudo apt install spell or sudo dnf install spell, and you can have spell. But it's ancient and it's got problems compared to the modern alternatives, namely Aspell. Oops. Hey, that's a command that's installed. I didn't add that to my Ubuntu box, and it comes with a lot of distros. And then there's another one that functions very similar, and it's called Hunspell, Hun spell. And it's not by default installed on my Linux box, but it says, hey, I know where you can find it. Just do a sudo apt install Hunspell. They are effectively the same with a couple minor differences. One is that Aspell has a dictionary file, and the contents of the dictionary file are in binary. If you were to do the same contents in a text file, like Hunspell does, it's huge. Figure out the right hand here. There we go. So we like that nice binary dictionary file. Takes up a lot less space using Aspell than Hunspell. And I haven't used Hunspell yet, so I don't know if it can edit or if it can only find things. It's being able not to edit doesn't make a lot of sense. But let's take a look here. So let me cat something here. Cat. Here's a text file. So here's a text file. Do I have any typos in here? Well, typos are a function of the dictionary you're using, so I don't know. Everything looks right in here as far as what I wanted to accomplish, but let's try something here. How about Aspell? Oops. Try that again. Aspell. Says, I don't know what you're talking about here. Oh, because we got to add a -c. And now, he says, the first typo that I found, or thing that's not in my dictionary, is .php. And then it gives me a menu of things that it thinks I might want to change it to. And those are all as 1 through 5 and as 6 through 10. Or I can ignore it. I can replace it with something else. I would hit R, and then it says, okay, what do you want to replace it with? I can add that to the dictionary. I can close or abort this program. So I'm going to say ignore that. Just touch the letter I. Oh, here's the sound. Found the same thing. Found the same thing. Food list. That's not a word, but one says food space list is. You get the idea? So I'm going to X this thing. That's Aspell. So it allows you to do post spell checking and correcting on a text file. Really nice little program. I did a show a while back using the bang command. And it was focused on this. So put in the word history. I put in 2013 commands. A lot more than that, but within a certain scope of history. The last one I did was the history command. The one I did before that was clear, and then Aspell. And we talked a little while back about using the bang command and just using one of those numbered history file things. And we did some other things with that, but basically it was how to rerun previously executed commands based on the history contents. Well, I want to introduce you to another bang command called double bang or bang bang. Bang bang means repeat the last command. Now the cool thing about bang bang, let's try something here. Oops. The cool thing about bang bang is, let's do another cat on globfiles.sh. Now, if I want to run that command again, there's a couple ways to do it. One is I can up arrow. The other is bang bang. No real benefit in doing one over the other, except for this. What if I had wanted to do sudo cat globfiles.sh? Well, I could up arrow and then arrow back to the beginning of the line and type in sudo and then hit the enter key. That would work. If that was a really long command, there are times where I can do commands that are 200 characters long. That's a lot of work. That one's not too bad, but you get the idea. And I can put any other word in front of here. It doesn't have to be sudo. I might put time, so I can get a time how long this program takes to run. Well, that's where bang bang really gets useful. Let's see, let's do something here. Let's do a search. How about apt search element? This is going to search in the repositories for all of the entries that include in the title of an application or the description of an application the word element. And bam, buzz, buzz, grind, grind. Okay. Now that happened pretty quick and it worked. But let's say that I blew it. Let's say that that command was not supposed to work unless, look at all these results, by the way. That command was only supposed to work if I used sudo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sudo bang bang. So bang bang means whatever I typed in the last time I typed in a command, and now I can put in words in front of it or behind it. Yeah, prove you are who you say you are before you run sudo on some things. Okay. And there's no difference running sudo apt search and running apt search. But let's say that I want to, oh, here we go. I like this one. I hadn't thought about this one earlier. Search element and send the results to grep and search for only the findings that have Z88 in them. They said, you're an idiot. There's no such thing as a search command. Oh, I forgot to do apt. So how about apt bang bang? And there we go. So bang bang is a great little shortcut to repeat the previous command, and you can prepend to the command by putting a command or a word in front of bang bang. You can append by putting stuff after bang bang. This is a bash shell technique. It may work in other shells, but it won't work in every one, I am quite certain. So those are my 2 pro tips for the day. Do a little nonsense here. There we go. And that's going to wind up the show for the day. We're going to get back to this event and get them torn down and fixed. So let me see what you guys are doing. And I'm going to close down early. I apologize for that. Vim will highlight code syntax. Right. Vim, especially if you're doing text code that starts with a shebang up on top for Python or for Bash or whatever, Vim will recognize and help identify code. All right, guys. Apologies for the short show. Apologies for no Mastodon. We pushed Mastodon to next week. Besides the time crunch that I'm in, let me tell you my problem. I've got a web server running in here on port 80 and port 443. Nothing wrong with running another web server in here, which is what the Mastodon server is going to basically do. And it's going to run on port 80 and port 443. And you can't forward to 2 different port 80s internally and 2 different, what I'm saying isn't true, but the way I've got port forwarding set up and the way you would do it, it's not going to make it work. What I need is a front end that can look at incoming requests for different web servers and say, you go to the ADRAMADA server, you go to the Drama server, you go to the Mastodon server. And so I need to set that up. The other thing you need, if you want it to work when you're all done, is you have to have a domain name, and it's got to be registered in a DNS out there in the world. And I did not do those 2 things in advance. Picking up a cheap domain name is a piece of cake. And likewise, getting listed on a DNS server, if you go through somebody like Spaceship or Namecheap, you can get your domain name from them for whatever the going rate is. I saw Spaceship was advertising .net domains a day or 2 ago for $2.38 a year. Buy yourself a 10-year MastodonFred.net or whatever. Fred Mastodon, Fredadon. And then you can do a free yearly Let's Encrypt if you want to do 443. So I need to get all that up and cooking, and once we have those things laid out in my system, we're ready to go. You can do this on a Raspberry Pi running a 64-bit OS. And I think I'm going to try both, but I have this gut feeling that doing it with Ubuntu is going to be the way to go. All right, thoughts, questions, comments? Very good. We will be back together a week from today, and I'm so looking forward to it. I don't have a lot of things that are sucking up my time this week, though my wife is starting to think I should get a job. I think so too. I got to get a little less picky now. I know what I want to do, but it just didn't happen. What do we got here? Oh. Okay, we can fix it that way. All right, so I'm going to line this puppy up. See y'all next time. Thank you. All right, let me get to my end here. Hey, Patricia Grace, let me know which, on the Discord server, Patricia, that's your name, what you come up with your PDF project. The way I read your question, I didn't have an answer. But the answers that I saw people posting didn't look like they answered what you wanted to do. Which, if I understand this correctly, is you want to use the same program to go back and forth between file formats, PDF and doc or whatever. I guess I'm just a little unclear on that. All right, let's wind this thing then. As everyone always, I wish you a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. And if at all possible, please try to call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resources we have are you and I. And with that, I bid you good night. I will see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday on the other platforms that I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eat, ah, pork, ah, ah.